All right, all right. We are live. We are back with another show, another week of crazy action. And this week is probably the craziest of weeks because we probably had the card of the year in a lot of people's eyes. You know what I mean? I think there was like 5 fights that ended within a minute. You know what I mean? Finishes everywhere. And yeah, man, we're gonna break it all down. We're gonna talk about all the results and the repercussions and future matchups and all that good stuff as we move forward. But before we get into that, before we get into the main event, J Spec, how is the league going, man? Let the people know.
League is going fantastic. And we just crowned a new winner of the Ultimate Flight game for the month of July, as we do within our Twitter space. The highest scoring picker within JSpec's Prize League in the space specifically wins autographed memorabilia on top of the monthly champion. So two chances to win, folks. Another reason for you to download the All-Star Sports app, get in the game with us. It's just your opinion. It takes no money, and you could win something sweet like this. BJ Penn blasting Matt Hughes in the face, autographed. That's going to Bald Guy. So good job at Bald Guy MMA. You killed it.
Yeah, go in the descriptions, download the app. Also, go and follow these guys on Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you guys go check out Sicko's YouTube channel at Sicko Sports. And yeah, man, it's Envy streams as well. Go download Envy streams. Go follow them on Twitter. And there you go, there you go. And International Fight Week, man. I see you got the shirt on, the Hall of Fame shirt.
Yeah, boy. It was
And what
it was
about Anderson Silva not showing up, man? That kind of sucked, dude. That's the person I was looking forward to seeing. You know what I mean? And there must be some real problems between the UFC and Anderson Silva, right, J Spec?
So thank you for saying that. It was a bummer. I know a lot. I talked to a lot of people there, very disappointed, including our boy Andrew. He very disappointed in that. They never told anybody, they didn't tip any hats. They kind of just like banged us right in the face while we were there. On top of that, Rory McDonald didn't show up. Not a lot of people talking about that, but I think it should.
Not
Oh,
not too concerned about Roy McDonald, to be honest with you. Like I'm
Poor
more of like
Rory.
Anderson Silva guy. You know what I mean?
I get that. I get that. But he was half of the fight that they inducted and he wasn't
Yeah.
there. But anyways, moving on to back to the Anderson Silva thing. I don't wish illness on anybody, but I was thinking to myself, my initial thought was, is he okay? Like, hope he's not sick. Like, I hope whatever it was, I thought that had to be monumental. Whatever it is that kept Anderson from this had to be big. And well, he sent his son in, and his son I didn't know was fluent in both Portuguese and English at the same time. That was kind of cool to see. But other than that, man, I was taken by surprise, and I really don't know what's going on. And I hope it's not drama, but it seems like it could be.
Oh, it's definitely drama because it took him so long to get him into the Hall of Fame, right? So there must be something going on behind the scenes. I don't think Anderson's sick. If he was sick or something was going on, I think the UFC would have revealed to everybody that, I mean, there's a reason why he's not here. But there must be some behind the scenes issues between Anderson and the UFC. But it was good to see his son go up there and speak for him rather than just like a robot or something. I don't know, a hologram. They should have done the hologram. Sicko.
Yeah,
They should have got the hologram.
with
Yeah,
some
when they're
AI
like Tupac.
chatbot.
Yeah, some stupid shit like that. Um, yeah, man, the Hall of Fame, the Jose Aldo one was like that was like emotional for real. Sicko, what'd you think of that one, man? Jose Aldo, he's a legend, man. He's a building block of the UFC. They need to understand that.
Well, we saw him emotional when he retired too, right? Like it means a lot to him, man. To walk away from the UFC, you can tell that his run in the UFC, like how much it really meant to him. Yeah, he was super emotional.
It was emotional to the point where I was kind of sucking it up in the crowd. Like, I was like, I'm not crying. It's too public. I'm not crying, but I almost did. But Jens Pulver's speech got to me. I talked about this a little bit in the speech. He was talking about battling depression and suicidal thoughts. I've been there, bud, so I understand. And I just like his quote, and I'm gonna say it right here. Don't close the door on the person you're gonna be 5 years from now, because the when things are going good, you're gonna thank yourself for not giving up. And that's a paraphrase. I'm trying to quote him as best I can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Everybody, if you're watching live, put your comments in the chat. We'll put them up. Give us your thoughts on the fights. We're gonna start with the main event, of course, as always. Alex Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. Ahead of this fight, you know what I mean? I always felt Yair posed a certain level of danger that none of the other previous fighters posed, right? He had this unorthodox, wild style that he could clip you with, and he could knock you out at any time. And if the fight stayed on the feet, I think that was a big possibility. But Volk goes in there again, and just he's one of the greatest minds. Sicko, is he one of the greatest minds to ever step into the octagon?
Yeah, the ability to adjust the game plan. People are gonna go crazy, but it is very similar to what John Jones has done in his career, where it's not about their strengths as it is as much as your weakness. If you have a weakness, they're going to exploit it. Whatever that weakness is, he's going to find it, and he's going to make it a shining example of why he's winning. Everybody knew Yair had an issue with wrestling. He's not the best grappler. Like, yeah, he could throw up some stuff off his back, but the thing I didn't like about Yair going into the fight, when he was doing one of the interviews, one thing that really stuck out to me is when he said, I'm okay giving up position. I don't really care. I don't think about giving up position because I know I could get it back. I don't really think about throwing kicks, throwing spinning stuff. I put myself in whatever position because I am confident in my ability to get back into a better position. When he said that, I was like, I don't think you really understand how strong and how dominant Volk is when he's going to be on top of you. Like, when Volk gets on top of him, he's going to realize, oh, this is different. I can't get back to a better position. And it was very evident very early. Volk, as soon as you get him down, that's it. The round is done. That round is Volk's. And yeah, I mean, it was a dominant performance by a dude who is quickly moving up the ranks of wherever people, whatever GOAT talk, pound for pound talk, it doesn't matter. When you talk about greatness, Alexander Volkanovski, once again, keeps climbing and climbing and climbing.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it out there. I'm kind of close to a few members of Volkanovski's camp. Like, I know his coaches somewhat well, and I had conversations with them about Yair. Man, I told him straight up, like, straight up, I said Yair is going to be the most dangerous opponent to date. I told him, like, this guy just poses different dangers than anybody else. You know what I mean? He could submit you off your back if you make a mistake, and he can knock you out on the feet with just some switch kick, karate, body, Bruce Lee type shit, right? And but Volk went in there, and that distance that he kept on Yair, kept on switching stances, and Yair came close to clipping him a few times, but coming close and actually connecting is two totally different things. Man, it was a masterclass, especially the ending sequence as well, where Yair threw a kick at punching distance, and then Volk countered and rocked him, right? And Yair, after that, I think he was done. Like, he fell back against the cage. Volk went in and he tried to throw a knee, but he's just not tall enough to connect with it. So he went with the uppercuts, and then he just dumped Yair on his head and then left in just a barrage. He landed 7 takedowns in this fight. I thought wrestling was going to be a big key. J-Spec, man, what'd you think of Yair's approach, man? It didn't seem like he had anything different for Volkanovski, right?
Dude, wait. First off, I want to go back a step because only one of us here on the panel has actually grappled with Volk, and that's you, John. And the way I remember it, you started off in positions with great advantage, and he turned it around. That's so pretty much the story of this. There was nothing. Yair, it looked like Yair never even trained for that element of the fight, and I'm not disrespecting him. Of course, he's trained grappling. Of course, he's worked jiu-jitsu and wrestling. But the way it looked was like that wasn't even. He filled 0% of that skill set up in this fight camp leading to this moment. Now, to his performance, he did have one area I want to give him credit for that I think he did very well in, and I expected him to do well in before the fight ever happened. And I said, at range, at full kicking length, his speed, dexterity, angles of his kicks, for very brief moments in a couple of those rounds, you could see that's where his strong suit was. But at winning one area of the fight and losing all other 9, if there's 10, I'm just making up numbers here, you're not going to win. You're going to lose. And that final sequence that you talked about, that looked straight up like something out of the video game where fighter rocked sequence, then advantage fighter just getting on top and just wailing on him. It was beautiful, chaotic, to plan. And like we said before, Volk has a way, intelligently and physically, of making the fight go in his direction and neutralizing your good stuff. Like I said, Yair's performance, hey, it is what it is. You know, he didn't do it, and I don't know if, like you said, dangerous. Yeah, he's dangerous. He's a dangerous fighter. He's a highly skilled fighter, but in total skill set, able to beat Volk in anything really besides the long range kicking game? Nope. And clearly, nope. That's what we got.
Before we get into this, let's go to Mushroom MMA. What's up, Sicko, John, J Spec? What's going on, Mushroom MMA? I love it. I love the mushrooms. He says Volk is a pure monster at 145. Completely agree. Pure monster at 145. He's probably a pure monster at 155, right? If he actually decides to just leave the division and go up and fight those guys. And I think that's going to be eventually something that he's going to do. I think that he might have to just leave 145 in the dust. If he goes up there and fights for the title, wins the title, I this is my prediction. I think that he leaves 145 and stays at 155 to defend the title. Yeah.
At the Q&A the day before, or the day before, I don't know. International Fight Week blurred all together for me. Sorry. But at the Q&A, he somebody asked him like that, a similar question to along those lines, and his words were, which I found interesting, was he's going back up to 155. He's going to take that belt. And then he said, I plan on actively defending both divisions. Now, I don't know how much of that was a sell or if he really means it, but the dude is so good in this division in 45. Like, I don't doubt the guy. I can't doubt the guy anymore, man. Like, all my previous doubts about him, he sealed them, and I'm a full-blown Volk fan. Whatever he says, run for president, Volk. I'll back you up in that too, you know?
It's hard to defend both titles, especially those weight classes. This is not the Amanda Nunes situation where you got one division where there's nobody and you just fight
that
whenever
belt just
there's
on
like,
dust.
yeah,
Yeah, just collecting dust on the shelf.
yeah. That's difficult for featherweight and lightweight, but I could see him going up to lightweight if he does win the title, vacate the featherweight. And you know what? That would leave a lot of room for, Yair to actually grab the undisputed title. To be honest with you, I think he's only like 31 or 30 or something like that. So he's still
30,
got
yeah.
some time to actually win the belt, undisputed belt. But then there's always Max Holloway there. You know what I mean? Like and Max Holloway is only 30, 31 as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But going back to Volk, man, I put him, Sicko said it, like John Jones, Demetrius Johnson, Volkanovski. I think Volkanovski will be on Mount Rushmore. Sicko, what do you think?
If he's not already. I mean, man, the fights that he's had, and especially as of late, like, it's one thing to look at his record and say, yes, he has 3 wins over Max, but the last win over Max, what he did to Zombie, what he did to Ortega, the fact that he goes up to 55 against a 55er who people think can fight at 70, right? Like, people think Islam can fight at 70, and he went in there at 5'5", however big Volk is, and gave Islam problems. Took him to a place that, is there a 55er that can do that to Islam? We haven't seen it yet. We don't think there is. I mean, Mount Rushmore, it's like, if he's not there already, they're already chiseling it out. Like, for sure. It's already halfway done, man. He's definitely going to go down as one of the best. Unless he just falls off a cliff and just, for some reason, somebody comes along and he could just never get it back. Like, yeah, he's going to keep winning fights. He's going to have some more major wins. And if he can snag that 155 bout, even if it's not even Islam, even if it's a different route that he has to take, if he snags that bout, 100%, one of the greatest of all time.
All right. Now, Volk, he's about chasing after biggest fights, right? Which means the biggest money fights for him. And the biggest fights right now are title fights. That's the money makers. But aside from that, there's other fights that you can chase after because you're at this level now. Like, everybody's talking about you're the GOAT. Everybody's talking about you're the best featherweight of all time. And I think the next fight, if things don't work out with the lightweight title, I say he should fight Conor McGregor at 170. Why not? Why not jump up to 170? He's fought at welterweight. He's actually fought at middleweight, I believe, as well in the past. Why not go chase after the biggest fight? Because at the end of the day, his camp, from what I know about his camp, they want to make the most money and accomplish the most right now. They don't want to wait, like I don't think Volk's gonna be around for many years from now, right? I don't think he's gonna like do like a BJ Penn and just fizzle away, what I mean, like slowly, like and go on like an 8-fight losing streak. Like Volk's gonna be fighting the best guys for belts and the biggest prizes, right? And I think like 170, if Conor does come back, I think that's a good fight for him. What do you think's the next step for Volkanovski, man? He has many options. Sicko, what is the best option you think for him is next?
Well, it's all depending on injuries, right? He said he has to go get surgery. For me, just right away would be Islam. That's what I would want to see next, is that rematch with Makhachev. But again, with the injuries that he has, if Islam is already set to fight in Abu Dhabi, who do they have him fight then? It's just a bunch of stuff that still needs to happen. So I'm honestly not sure. Topuria makes a whole lot of sense too at 145. He wants to stay there and defend the belt. But again, is he hurt? Is he too hurt? Is he going to move up? If his next step is 55, then there's no way 45 can wait for him to get surgery and then wait for him to go and fight at 55 and then come back. We're probably going to have another interim fight at 45. If Max fights in about a month and some change, right, against Zombie, we're all in agreement, right? We're all assuming Max is probably going to get by Zombie.
Oh my God. This is going to be
if Max does, let's just say if he gets past Zombie, we could see a Max Holloway Topuria interim fight. And that could be, let's say Max wins, that could be kind of Volk's gateway to just stay at 55. Mm-hmm. Stay at 55, put on some more weight, because then maybe Conor next year at 170. Why not? 55 champ and then fight Conor while you're the 55 champ after beating Islam.
Yeah. Big fights. J-Spec, what do you think? What do you think is the next step for Volkanovski? I saw his coach say that he'll probably be out for like 6 to 8 weeks after the surgery. They're probably going to get the surgery right away. What do you think?
So I would like him to not redo Makhachev. Maybe I'm the only one. Because I want this sounds bad. I don't want him to do that because I want him to get the other belt, and I want him to leave 145 alone so Max can have it. I know that's a real roundabout way of thinking of things, but honestly, I think Makhachev is kind of a problem. I think he's legitimately strong and big, and not the. There's nothing easy about the top of the UFC, but I just don't think it's the best way for Volkanovski. I think what you said, John. Hey, go get the surgery. Hey, make sure you're 100% right. And I don't know if anybody caught it, but silly old Conor was tweeting mid-fight and said, "Oh, I should have been in Vegas. I should have been in Vegas because they're fighting for my old belt." Like, well, that means you want some of that. You want some of Volkanovski, because I'm sure, like you said, he'll meet you at 170, bud. Like, make that shit happen. I mean, but on the other side of that, that's the best thing for him. So I guess the best thing overall, fight Conor. And that's the same answer for any other fighter. Like, fight Conor. If Conor's even ever fighting, that's going to make the most money. But personally, Topuria. And I hope there's no interim title stuff in the main in between. They already had a little bit of spark after the fight, ringside, cage side, and it's kind of a cool thing too, because you got that undefeated fighter thing going on, and it has a nice, easy build to the story. But hey, I'm actually happy. I would gladly watch all three of those scenarios. Fight Islam again, fight random whoever it is holding the belt at 155. Fight Conor, fight Topuria. So I think the man is a man of many options. I'll close this with, I want him to take his time, because he is in that very special. He is peaking. He's at the peak of his career. But time will slowly be against him very shortly. So be well. Don't rush nothing. Get fully healthy, and keep kicking ass. That's kind of what I want.
Yeah, and he's 34 years old, man. Like, the injuries you don't recover as quick as you did when you're 24 years old. I think that he should take the rest of the year off, get the surgery, train, come back properly. And now it leaves Islam in a tough situation, right? Because the UFC put him on the shelf just to put him on the Abu Dhabi card. And now your top two options are gone. Charles Oliveira He can't be ready by October. Volk probably won't be ready by then. If he does, it's kind of like he's rushing into it a little bit, but maybe that's what he wants. I don't know. What's the third option for Islam? And I say this. I'm gonna put this out there for you guys and the people that are watching. Give your opinions in the chat. I say you put Islam, move him up to 170, fight Leon Edwards, because nobody wants the Colby Covington fight. Sicko, what do you think of that idea?
I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Like 100%. That fight intrigues me way more. Now, does Islam want it? I've never heard. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. I've never heard Islam talk about moving to 170. I've never heard him even flirt with the idea of moving up in a weight class. But I would absolutely love that fight way more than a Colby fight. But again, if for some reason, like, why are we not? What is going on? Why is Dana and the UFC still just stuck on it's Colby? Or we just will get rid of the fucking division. It seems like it's gonna be Colby no matter what at 170 for the title fight next. So I think that's what's gonna get in the way. I could see a situation though where you do Islam and Colby. If Leon literally just refuses to fight Colby, they could say, all right, we'll just do an interim or something like that, or strip Leon even. Because I still don't know what the holdup is. Like, I have no idea why that fight, if you've already said that fight's going to happen, which I know I have seen some rumblings now that even Leon said that it's going to be Colby at some point later on in the year. So I'm assuming they're pretty close on that fight. But yeah, man, for Islam, this is a tough one. They took a gamble, they took a risk, and it sucks now when Charles is saying he's not going to fight. They're probably going to, I mean, to be honest, what I think is going to happen is they're going to just do Poirier Gaethje winner to take Islam, which doesn't really. It
That's
doesn't
a quick
move me
turnaround,
that way.
man. Especially the type of fight that will be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that's going to be a war. It's just what else do we have at 55?
Well,
I got
crazy Pato. Let's go to that before we get to J Spec. Crazy Pato. He says, "Good afternoon, guys. A lot to do." Yeah, definitely, Pato. He's suggesting I would prefer Gamrot to fight Islam over Justin Dustin. At least Gamrot can grapple and doesn't quit. What do you think of that, J Spec?
I'm not for people outside of the top 5, and I know the rankings aren't what they used to be. I'm just not for fighters outside of the top 5 fighting for the title. Call me old school, call me stuck on the merit system, call me both of those. For me, my probably super unpopular and probably not liked opinion is since it looks like, and I'm just going with assumption here, it looks like Chandler is getting screwed out of the big money fight with Conor, right? That was the whole point of the show and the whole buildup for it. In my eyes, I would give it to Chandler, throw him a bone, and let him fight for the title a little bit. And since we already had so much TV time on Chandler given to Chandler, it's a little bit of an extra push for that championship bout for people to watch it. That's just my idea.
Now let's get back to the card, man. We're kind of divulging away from the featherweight division. We're all in the lightweight division right now, talking about welterweight title fights and stuff. The co-main event: Brandon Moreno, Pantoja, Alexandre Pantoja. Not a good night for the Mexican fans. You know what I mean? A lot of upsets for them, and the Bices, they're not too happy, right? But this is the fight game, man. Moreno, he'll be back. Yair will be back as well. Yeah, this was a crazy fight. I believe Brandon Moreno broke his hand in the first round, and that probably had a huge effect on the rest of the fight. Pantoja, man, he's like a Tasmanian devil, right? He's just like spinning and just all over the place. So it's just wild, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's gonna gas." He didn't gas. That's what's the crazy part. Like, he looked like he gassed in the second round, but then he hit like another gear. He had like a second stomach or something, like a cow, and just went, full blast. And he did his thing, man. Like, it was an emotional post-fight interview, especially the thing about his mom and his dad, like, because his dad wasn't around. Like, that spoke to me. You know what I mean? My dad, I didn't know him either. So, like, I understood that aspect of it. The fight, though, man, the scorecards were kind of weird, like they always are. Jace, what is it? Sicko. Was the fight a lot closer than people say it is?
The Mexican in me wants to say yes, but it wasn't. I had 3-2 Pantoja. I thought it was pretty clear 3-2 Pantoja. I don't know how you give. I mean, what was the other score for Moreno? Was it 4-1 or was it 3-2
Yeah,
Moreno?
49, 46,
4-1, right?
4-1. Yeah.
I don't know how you score it. The only thing that makes sense, the only reason why you would score it that way is if that judge gives absolutely there's no differential between ground control in somebody's guard or on somebody's back. Which, if anybody has taken one jiu-jitsu class, knows that there is a giant difference between being in somebody's guard and being on somebody's back. That's the only thing I can think of, is that judge is like, ground control is ground control. I don't know what this means. I have no idea if somebody's in danger or who's in danger, depending on positions on the ground. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, is they have no clue what jiu-jitsu is. Because anybody that looks at that fight and can see somebody riding the back for as long as Pantoja did and not score the round for him makes no sense to me at all. And I get it, damage over everything, but that is a dominant position. That's not, I'm holding on somebody's guard, just staying here and making sure that he's not getting up, but I'm not really applying any damage. I'm not trying to better my position. Like, no, you're in the best position possible. That is all danger, danger, danger alerts going off in your head when somebody has a body triangle on you on your back. That's the only thing I can think of, which that person needs to take some classes, needs to take some courses. Transparency is something that we constantly ask for. Why? Why did those rounds go to Moreno? And again, this is coming from somebody who desperately wanted Brandon Moreno to win. And I have no clue how somebody gives him the fight. I really don't.
If you look at the numbers, though, right? If you look at the numbers, total strikes landed 140 for Moreno, 132 for Pantoja. Significant strikes, Moreno 117 over 101 for Pantoja. And the takedowns, 6 for Pantoja, 2 for Moreno. When you look at the strikes landed, man, it shows Brandon was more accurate, right, with landing his strikes. And then this doesn't factor in like the control. It actually does. It says 8 minutes and 26 seconds of control time, right? Yeah. This fight was close, man. I felt like it was extremely close. The first round, yeah, you got to give it to Pantoja, right? But the rest of the fight, I thought it was extremely close, man. I'm not saying that it was like 4 rounds for Moreno, but I'm saying that this fight was so close, man. I feel like if they fought like 10 times, it'd be like 5-5. You know what I mean? Like, these dudes
for sure
are the highest level, man. And the thing is, you know, I'm gonna throw the what if out there. What if Brandon Moreno didn't break his hand? Would he been able to get out of those positions? You know what I mean? Better, you know what I mean? Because broken hand is a broken.
Tough, man. To fight hand control, man. To fight off the throat. Like, yeah, that's
exactly
hard.
Right. Exactly, man. We don't know. And then you're throwing it at the same time, so you're breaking it even more. And I'm pretty sure he could feel it, man. I don't care about the adrenaline, man. You break something, you're gonna feel it as it goes. Maybe it gets numb. I have no idea. But J-Spec, man, Pantoja, did you get emotional when he won?
I'm not Brazilian, so no. I'm Portuguese, probably, but not Brazilian. Now, I didn't get emotional, but I was feeling for him once again throughout fight week. He was getting booed. Like, he was getting booed and pretty much solidly disrespected throughout the entire process. He stayed cool. He stayed respectful to the Mexican fans. He said thank you. You know, like, he was a cup of ice water, and you got to respect that. Literally being in substitute enemy territory. The amount of Hispanic / Latino Mexican fans that were here in Las Vegas for this fight was huge. I mean, it was everywhere. I literally got brainwashed with Viva la Mexico. I mean, it was part of who I was temporarily. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, I think you could fit
Thanks, man. Thanks, dude. I know. I always get asked, and the look of disappointment when they ask me to speak Spanish, and I don't know how. But anyways, to the next point, it was, you know, a lot of fans were here to support Moreno and all the other Mexican fighters too. But the back to Pantoja, like he did it in enemy territory. I'll give him that much credit. I mean, there was no love for him whatsoever, and there was a small contingent of fans I was talking to and hearing that just kept bringing up, hey, man, don't forget this guy beat him twice. There is a thing to this. There's a thing to that. And Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But you know what does apply is this fight was very competitive. We were, while we were watching it in our spaces, we had it split down the middle. I don't remember, if you guys maybe can remember, what title fight into the 5th round has live odds given by the bookies at a -115 apiece.
Mm-hmm.
When you have double negatives, we all know that's just the house collecting, skimming off the top and letting you guys decide, right? So what championship fight in the 5th round had dead even odds? That means the fight was up for grabs in the 5th round. So if you just close your eyes, fast forward to round 5, who won that round? Pantoja. And there's no need for disputes or drama or whatever. He is and new.
There you go. Let's get to some of these comments. Crazy Pato says the only robbery that has happened at Fly is Amir over Kai. SMH. It's hard to disagree, right, with that. Hype, what a card. Grateful for the stream, man. What's going on, Hype? And Crazy says, Pato says, I remember when Flyweight was gonna get cut. Never a full moment in the UFC universe. Yes, or dull moment. He's probably trying to say. Man, Sicko, imagine if this card was in Mexico City. If this card transpired.
I was literally about to say that when Rob was like, yo, it was crazy in Vegas. I'm like, Rob, imagine if this was in Mexico. Imagine if this card was in Mexico. First of all, I'm glad it wasn't. I know my people. I'm glad it wasn't, because Volk and Pantoja would have had to beeline it out the arena. Like, they would have, especially Pantoja, because the crowd would have been completely slanted. Everybody in the arena would have been assured that it was a complete robbery, and things would have started flying. They would have had to duck and cover and get them out of there quickly. So I'm glad it wasn't for that reason, but this is why it needs to be like the card. There has to be a card in Mexico at some point. And hopefully it's for some of these guys that have fought, somebody like Moreno to regain the title, to get another opportunity and have that one in Mexico. Or even, let's say, Grasso was able to do it. Let's say she's able to do it twice, which a lot of people are saying she can't. Let's say she does it twice and she could fight somebody else in Mexico, and Moreno could fight to try to get his title back in Mexico at some point. Like, it's incredible. But for Moreno, I remember saying this last Sunday when we had our show. I said, I'm interested to see if the 2 losses to Pantoja are sticking with him. I want to see his headspace. I want to see where he's at, to see if he's hesitant. And I brought up Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza. And I said there's no reason Rose should have lost that second fight. It was all mental. She was just hesitant, didn't want to go, was worried about the first fight. The first fight played into her mind way too much. No reason she lost. This wasn't the case, man. The first 2 fights had nothing to do with this one. They were both ready. They were both going at it. They're both dogs. They both deserved the victory. And Pantoja, in my opinion, deserved to get the victory. I thought he won it. Congrats to him. Let's run it again, fellas. Let's have another 4th fight between Moreno and somebody. And for the flyweight division, can we start thanking Brandon Moreno? Everyone talks about most entertaining fighters, and it's Charles Oliveira, and it's Justin Gaethje, and 100%. Can we start throwing Brandon Moreno in there, please? Can we put some credit on the little guy?
Oh, for sure, man. Brandon Moreno's on the list, man. Like, you cannot deny him. Just overall resume. Yeah, Brandon Moreno is, even though he's lost to Pantoja 3 times, he's still above Pantoja in my eyes, right? Just looking at the resume. I know a lot of people be like, what are you talking about? 3 wins. You got to do much more. You can't just beat one guy and be on the top list. I mean, you got to defend the title as well. Mexico has a lot of stadiums, man, because, soccer, of course, is massive. Football, if you're from Europe, I wish they would do a show in Tijuana. It's close enough to the U.S. where the U.S. fans could drive down there. And then I'm pretty sure there's got to be some stadium. It'll be open air, but still, Like, they could
stadium out there.
I think they would sell it out, like a soccer stadium.
Oh, for sure, 100%, easily, very easy.
And you'll hear those chants. Imagine the chants, man, in Mexico, dude. Like, I've been around the Mexican people like for many years, and I love them, man. And they're passionate, man. They're passionate about their fighting and their football. Those are the 2 top sports in Mexico. And like, they'll go hard in the paint.
Do you guys think that the UFC executives were like fucking tearing up papers and going off fuck, like, because 2 of their three of their Mexican mega stars, if you will, for the belt holders, they just fumbled, if you will. And no disrespect to the people who lost this. This is high level martial arts, so it is what it is. But man, that's gotta hurt. Like that's gotta hurt because I know they had plans, the big unveiling of the Mexican PI, and now it's down to Grasso, right? And if Grasso loses, like,
Last hope.
I mean, just light, yeah, like, hear me, Alexa Grasso, you're our only hope.
Well, I don't think that they're ripping up papers because I feel like the UFC, they're a multi-billion-dollar company to the point to where they have contingency plans, like they have options, right? If this person wins, if this person loses, this is the way we want to go with them. This is the person wins, we want to go with them with this. They probably really have like rematches lined up if one person loses. It's like, it's like any other business, right? They don't just like wait until the fights happen and then they decide. It's like they have something lined up, right? If they don't, then I don't know what kind of business that they're running, because right now it's at an all-time high, man. They're making the most money that they made ever. Imagine how much money this card made, especially with Mexico coming into Vegas. You know what I mean? Vegas, they love the UFC, right? UFC has shows every week, you know what I mean, in Vegas pretty much. So we'll see, man. Now, before we move on to the next fight, I want to get your guys' thoughts on Brandon Moreno is in the Max Holloway dilemma now. Like, you've lost to the champ 3 times. Like, how do you justify a 4th fight? Sicko, what does Brandon Moreno have to do to get a 4th fight? Or do you give him the 4th fight right away?
Nothing. He already did it. He did it in the 3rd fight, which was give a fight that everybody immediately goes, yeah, we're cool with seeing it again. It was so good. We would like to see that again. That's what you have to do. If you went out there and lost a fight that was like, man, that was terrible. And he has the benefit of being in the division where is there somebody that deserves a title shot more than Brandon Moreno again? Is there someone in that division that you just go, oh, this dude is so much better than everybody. He deserves his title shot. He's in a division where it's not as deep. There's not as many title contenders right now at the moment. So, yeah, why not? And he already had Uncle Dana. He already had Uncle Dana saying, yeah, absolutely. Who wouldn't want to see that fight again? So I think he'll get it.
J-Spec doesn't agree.
No, I love you, Sickle, but I gotta know. And even some people in our spaces were like, hell no, I don't want to see. One, they don't want to see Moreno always fighting for the belt, even though we love him. All right. Second, we don't want to just stifle. That means everybody else in the division is just like, hey, sit down and just wait for Brandon Moreno's career to be over. Because guess what? He's always going to be in an entertaining fight. Last but not least, this isn't the same scenario as Figueiredo, where it was contentious and there was a draw and like it was back and forth. Like, this is a sweep, dude. This is 3-0, one direction. Like, it's not the same. What I would like to see, and I'm for a rematch, is if both men fight the next best people and they clear them out, all right, then run it back one more time. But immediate rematch, not so much.
Brandon Royval was the backup fighter for this title fight. So do you put him against Pantoja? Is that something that people want to see, or do you wait for other people to fight? Do you wait for Amir Albazi to fight somebody, or do you put him in the title fight against Pantoja? Deiveson Figueiredo is the number 1 contender, but he's gone. He's going to fight Dominic Cruz at bantamweight, it looks like. Yeah, so you do have some options, but at the end of the day, Brandon Moreno has fought in 7 straight title fights, right? Like, that's insane. He's always been part of the division for the last, I don't even know how many years, right? So some people are tired of him. Some people are like, he deserves it. If they fight for a 4th time, I don't really mind, to be honest with you, right? Because then if Brandon Moreno loses for the 4th time, then you could clearly say, hey, get out of here. Go up to bantamweight. It's time for you to, find a new territory, right? But until then, Brandon Moreno is going to be in the mix, man. Hate it or love it, the man is going to be in the mix. He's a boy because he loves the Legos, but he's a man because he smashes your face in that cage. Let's move on to the next one. This one was the hot one, right? Dricus du Plessis goes in there, major underdog, right? 3 underdogs won in a row: Dan Hooker, Dricus du Plessis, and Pantoja. So Dricus du Plessis goes in there, he takes on Robert Whitaker, a fan favorite. You guys can agree, right? He's a fan
Yeah.
favorite. You know,
Absolutely.
with all the issues that Drickus has with Izzy, and we'll get to that later. A lot of people are kind of turning him into a heel, which it seems like he doesn't want to become, but it's just like people start to hate him. I think he was booed as well. And Robert Whitaker is a guy that's very likable, and he's a former champion. But man, everybody underestimated Drickus du Plessis, and he goes in there and completely smashes Robert Whitaker. If you go to my Twitter, I told you guys, don't underestimate Drickus du Plessis. You know what I mean? He might be wild, but that wild style is a problem for a lot of the top guys. And he went in there, and Robert Whitaker, people are starting to say he's washed now. Sicko, what'd you think of the fight?
I hate when people say somebody's washed from one fight to the next. Like, I hate when people do that, man. Just give credit where credit's due. Drickus deserves his credit. He deserves his flowers. He deserves the shine he's got. He surprised me. I was expecting Robert Whitaker to be a little too quick, his wrestling pedigree to be a little too high for Drickus. I thought he was going to be able to take him down multiple times. And the thing that surprised me was Drickus' ability to get up, the DDP's ability to get up off the first takedown. When Robert got him on the ground, I was like, all right, here we go. This is what I expected. This is how this fight's going to play out. And he got up, and he got up pretty quickly. I was like, oh, okay, there wasn't a whole lot of control time there. That was surprising. And then to see DDP take Whitaker down at one point in the fight, he's looking for Darce chokes. I'm like, this dude's been working his ass off. It's very evident that this dude has been working hard to become a complete MMA fighter. And maybe there is something to the whole nose thing. Maybe there is something to the fact that he wasn't able to breathe. I mean, his breathing looked fine. His cardio looked fine in this fight. He did have kind of his mouth open at one point. I think he's just kind of because of his nose, like he'll never be able to not be mouth breathing out there. But man, he looked good, and it couldn't have gone any better. This was the perfect case scenario for me. I desperately wanted DDP to win this fight because the storyline was already written. It was already there. The pay-per-views are already selling. They couldn't wait for it. Izzy did the perfect job promoting it before this fight even took place. And yeah, I mean, I did not want to see Whitaker. You talk about not wanting to see Moreno and Pantoja again. I did not want to see Robert Whitaker and Izzy again, man. I really, really didn't. And I don't want to see Sean Strickland against Izzy. Like, if Robert Whitaker won, I would have been like, well, whatever. Let's hope Izzy can sell it somehow. But the fact that DDP won, perfect for all of us.
Yeah, it's DDP, man. This guy, he's taken the division by storm. Like, he's pretty much done kind of what Alex Pereira has done, right? Just a couple more fights, you know, than Alex Pereira, but he just shot up the rankings, man. And he's proven himself more than Alex Pereira as well. You know what I mean? Like, he beat Robert Whitaker, and Robert Whitaker right now, he was fighting at the top of his game, right? Like, after the Izzy losses, you know, he still came back and won fights against the top contenders. The dude is still really, really good. If we never see Robert Whitaker again, he's one of the greatest middleweights of all time, without a doubt, clear as day, right? DDP, man, I love it. I never underestimated him because he has the hyena. I call it the hyena style, right? Where it's just like he's just creeping forward. Like, you don't know what he's gonna do. He could take you down. He could punch you in the face. He could kick you. He could punch you and kick you at the same time, and you don't know where it came from. But man, they have something going on right in South Africa, because him, Cameron Simon, his teammate, undefeated bantamweight, just won earlier in that night with a finish. Like, these dudes are skilled, and their coaching staff knows what they're doing, right? It's very evident. I can't wait for the fight. J-Spec, Izzy, DDP. What do you expect from that?
Man, I hope we don't get any more of what we got at the end of that damn fight. I don't want to go. I don't know. I don't know if we're going into it, but I'm gonna say that shit was distasteful, ugly, shitty, on all levels. There was really no need for what Izzy did, but I'm gonna go to the fact that DDP, the instant he won that fight, those tickets, those pay-per-view buys were already sold. I mean, like that. It was signed, like just done. I mean, could a fight that is next up be more like hell yeah, like I want to see that right now. Can we do it next week? That was the level of anticipation and happiness that came from the crowd, came from everyone around. But you know what's really funny was live, and once again throughout fight week, he was getting booed, like you said, John. He was getting booed. He was getting no love. Like it was all on Rob Whittaker. And then the second he wins, how fickle fans are, all of a sudden we love him. He's the man. DDP gotta go. And you know, that is the fight game. That's what it's like in sports. But yeah, and to the reverse of that, going to the Rob Whittaker's washed, like, nah, no. And he's also a real kind gentleman. Ran into him in the New York hotel. He clearly was trying to scoot and get out of there, but he was taking on people's pictures. He looked, you know, he was still going through it. He still had to make weight and stuff. But guess what? Even though he had a little sour face in between pictures, he smiled bright and shiny. We got one. So he's a real gentleman and a class act, and I don't think he's going to hang it up. I think it's good for the division, like Sickle and you guys have mentioned that DDP won, and this fight is now I think near and maybe the same or near interest as the Pereira fight. Like it's fresh blood to the threat or to the crown of Izzy's throne, right? It's a fresh threat and good to see. Also, I've been, just last but not least, what you're talking about, South Africa. I've been a long time fan of the fight game out of there. Check out EFC Global, I believe, for some good ass, you know, regional level MMA stuff. Those guys aren't kidding around over there. They're coming. They're showing up. So good for everyone. Good for the UFC. Good for global MMA. Good for the fans, and most of all, congratulations, Dricus Duplessis. That was one hell of a fight, man. Good job.
All right, so DDP, phenomenal performance against Robert Whittaker, a former champ, earns himself a title shot. Now we're going to get into the post-fight in-cage face-off. Izzy, DDP, words were exchanged, but this goes back to like months and months ago, right? Where, you know, like where DDP kind of got on the map and started to, you know, target the title as his goal and Izzy as his opponent. Sicko, what did you think of the whole exchange, right? Because a lot of people are in their feelings about it, right? A lot of people are picking sides now because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pick any sides. I just didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was, I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority that didn't have any issue with it. I thought Izzy went in there. I thought he did great, sold the fight, got in his face. You can see that Izzy's really bothered by the whole situation, which, I mean, listen, man, I'm not going to pretend like I know all of the history and what goes on in Africa and how people from Africa feel about South Africans. And yeah, there's racial undertones in it, if you want to say, for sure. But again, I'm not familiar with all of that. I just didn't have an issue with Izzy. Man, I hear that word so many times in the South of America. Like, it just didn't really affect me or rub me the wrong way at all. Izzy can say whatever he wants. Told you guys earlier, for once, I agree with Dana White, man. Who cares? This was a whole lot of nothing for me. I don't know what's going on with me. Just the bald head, I guess. I don't know what's going on. Why am I agreeing with Dana White? But I agree with him in this instance. Izzy can say whatever he wants, man. They're selling the fight. There's bad blood. We think it's real. We think they really dislike each other. Like Rob said, give us that fight right now. I can't wait.
Kevin, the human X-ray, what's going on, Kevin? Appreciate you watching. He says, damn straight, J-Spec, the ending of that fight just soiled DDP's great win, in my opinion. So he's on the side of, you know, Izzy being very distasteful. And a lot of people are saying this, you know what I mean? A lot of people are saying it was distasteful to watch. I'm going to tell you right now, if you look at Izzy's career from the beginning of his UFC run, his career has been calculated, right? Even Dan Hooker, you know what I mean? I've had many conversations with Dan Hooker about Izzy. Izzy is one of the most calculated people in the world in this game, and he knows what he's doing every time he gets on the mic. He knows what he's doing whenever he's on his YouTube channel. He knows what he's doing when he runs into fighters. He knows, you know what I mean? He knows what type of effect or impact that's going to have. And him stepping into the cage, I guarantee you that was discussed with Dana White and the UFC beforehand. That, hey, man, if DDP wins, I'm going to step into the cage. We're going to face off. We're going to sell the fight. And I guarantee you the reason why he went off like that is because he creates controversy. And it's not like he creates controversy by going out there and getting arrested or doing something stupid. He creates controversy in the fight game, and he knows how to do that, and he knows how to make money off of that. And that's what he's doing. He's creating contenders in the division. Because if he didn't talk back to DDP, do you think DDP would be in the news like he is right now? Especially beyond the MMA media. Like right now, because of this exchange, people in the woke and all, I'm not involved in all of that, but I'm pretty sure like all of these people, like YouTube channels are going to play this clip. They're going to react to it. Like news channels are going to do it. It's going to spread like wildfire. And Izzy, I don't know him personally, but I know that he's calculated, and I think he did this for a reason. And I think that this is going to make him so much money, right? Because it's just controversy. He didn't hurt nobody.
And that's exactly what people have to remember. One of those guys are getting pay-per-view points. This only benefits Izzy. The more people talk about this, the more people bring it up, and the more people that, like you said, are outside of MMA that are going to start talking about this fight in particular. That only benefits the pockets of Israel Adesanya. That's why I didn't have a problem with it. Now, if the conversation is like we don't like the UFC bringing people in when somebody else wins, that's a different story. Like if you disagree with that, sure, I can agree with that. But as far as like, do you disagree with the words that came out of Izzy's mouth? I didn't think they were that crazy.
See, I respectfully, wholeheartedly disagree, man. One, he plays to the kids. He does the Pokemon stuff, the video game stuff, dance battling, and all that stuff, which caters to a younger generation. There's a whole slew of young men and women who look up to the superstar that is Izzy. And now you went and set a precedence that it's cool to use racial language against somebody in a demeaning way. And I just think you could have done it in a super clever way. You could have said like literally so many other more clever things like, boy, I'm going to beat your ass until you wish there was apartheid again. See, not racist. I didn't have to use the N-word. Super clever. Would have worked. Like, I'm just saying, I don't, just like Sickle, I'm not from Africa, not from South Africa. I don't even have any friends from there. So if you are from there, let's be friends. Teach me some stuff. But I don't know how big that is over there, but I know what the word is for like in here in the States. And I'm luckily to be from the great state of Hawaii, where you're not judged by your skin, and that's not a problem. But I see how much it is a problem on the mainland, and I don't like it. I just don't. I just don't like it. I think it's a word that just should be left to the past and not used. And there's 100 different ways Izzy could have sold the fight. And last but not least, Izzy didn't have to sell the fight. That shit was sold right at knockout. Like DDP sold that fight. This is just extra trash drama.
Man,
I don't
everybody
believe
was
that.
talking about it. Everybody's still talking about that.
Dude.
That
this is going to be the news for the next couple of
face.
weeks, man. You're going to see it on like CNN. I guarantee you.
Last but not least, I don't like it because in essence it is racism. If DDP said those words backwards, where would we be? Good selling of a fight or racist asshole?
He tried to troll him. That's the thing. He tried to troll him. He tried to bait him, right? He did take the bait. That's respectful to DDP. I like DDP. I like Izzy. I like both these fighters, right? And the thing is, if you go back and dissect like where this all started, I believe DDP is the one who kind of like made some comments, right? Nothing too crazy, but he did made some comments. And you know what? Izzy ran with it because he knew. He was looking for that. He was looking for something, right? And he knew that this is the thing that's going to sell this fight. This is the thing that's going to make the countdown, the most viewed countdown of all time. This is the thing that's going to sell the most tickets. If they haven't started selling tickets, I guarantee you the tickets prices are going to be much higher than they were the last time they were in Sydney. That's going to probably have an effect on it as well. And you know what? People are going to be flying into Sydney to watch this fight. Like, I guarantee you how many fighters are going to be calling the UFC like, yo, can I get some tickets front row for this? Like, I'm thinking about going to Sydney to watch this fight live because there's just because of this fight. You know what I mean? This fight has become a massive fight because of the controversy. And I think it's all right. I think it's good. You know, and you clearly, Dana White, he loves controversy. He's selling Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk. It's like he's going to sell like, you know, Hezbollah, right? Hey, how fast did he dump Hezbollah after like... How bad did he dump Hezbollah, right? Like he has no like loyalties, right? It's like the promotion game. And you know what? Izzy is a master promoter in himself, right? Like he knows what he's doing. He's calculated, but I'm telling you. And adding all that racist undertones and all that, like that aspect of it, that's what he wants to do. He wants to use that. And I guarantee you, Izzy, being who he is and the way he grew up, there's a lot of long-lasting traumas from being who he is and growing up the way he grew up, right? And like I grew up like that, right? I grew up in America as well. You know what I mean? So, if you grow up in America, racism is part of your life. It is. It doesn't matter. It is. It's just part of your life.
Yeah,
It's very
that's a great point, though, John. That's a great point. Remember Izzy talking about how when they moved, how he would always get made fun of for being African, how he would always get bullied and messed with about his skin tone, about being African. And now, I mean, I'm not taking Izzy's side here, but then all of a sudden, somebody with a white complexion is now telling you, the guy that was made fun of your whole life for being African, that you're not really African. Not the way he is. That's gonna rub him the wrong way.
Of course. And I'm just looking at it from his point. Like, does DDP saying that rub me the wrong way? It doesn't rub me the wrong. I think like he's right to say what he says, because think about it. America is it's like a mixing pot, right? Nobody's really American. Think about it. And we got my man Mike with us. Let's put him in. What's going on, Mike?
How's it going, gentlemen?
Hey.
You're coming right in the thick of it right now. We're talking about the whole Izzy DDP situation and
Wow.
America, and you guys are all located in different parts of the U.S., which is kind of cool, right? We got Sicko in Texas, Mike is in New York, and J-Specs in Vegas, and I'm in Korea. But I grew up in the States, so I kind of understand like the melting pot aspect of America. And Sicko was telling me something about, someone made a comment about like, if you're not a black person from America, you shouldn't use that type of language. And I was like, that's kind of a weird viewpoint, right? Like, is it weird, or is it like, is there some kind of something to that?
I just said it. I'd never seen it before. When I saw it, when I saw that, and it was getting a lot of, it got a lot of attention. Whoever put that out, like on Twitter and stuff, I saw it getting a lot of attention. I was like, I've never thought about that. Like, I never thought about, if you're from a different country, that word shouldn't mean what it means to black people in this country. Yeah. I never thought about it that way, man. And again, I will say it a million times over, I cannot and will not ever tell anybody who is black that they cannot or should not use that word, man.
Yeah,
I'm out of that conversation completely.
Yeah, it's just, you shouldn't be in the conversation, right? You just let people decide. But because of all of this, because of that altercation, this fight has become, it's going to probably become one of the biggest fights in the last 5 years. It's just, that's what Izzy has done. Mike, what do you think of this situation?
Yeah.
From your perspective of being a New Yorker and all that?
Yeah. I feel bad for Drickus. I think he's coming at this from a good place, and it wasn't meant to be an offense to anybody, but maybe he could have chosen his words a little bit differently. He's obviously extremely proud of where he's from and what he's done to stick around in that area and develop his own skill set. And he's now on the precipice of greatness. That's undeniable. What he did yesterday was incredible. No one's really disposed of Robert Whittaker in the fashion that he did. And what shocks me, maybe it was in one of your interviews, John, that you conducted with Drickus, he said he loved the stylistic matchup and he was ready for it. And it showed. I mean, he completely dominated him. And when Adesanya came into the octagon trying to steal his shine, to do so in such a dramatic fashion where he was infuriated, I was a little caught off guard by that. I mean, you could see he was paying respects to Robert Whittaker. He looked over and Whittaker wasn't there. Adesanya was standing there. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah,
that was great.
He had to change optics real quick. But it's an interesting spot, because then I look at Adesanya, and this is somebody who's pledged allegiance to, I believe, China at one point, and he's lived abroad. Apparently he hasn't trained in Africa in quite some time. I don't know the specifics, so I'm not going to form a strong opinion about it, but I'm watching it all unfold. And I honestly, my first gut instinct was I feel bad that Adesanya was coming in there and trying to squash his big moment. But I look forward to the fight, and I know that there will be not only fannies in the seats, but also eyeballs watching. It might be one of the highest sold pay-per-views in the history of the sport, to be honest, because you do have a lot of vitriol and there's hatred. I remember when Chael and Anderson were at their highest, that was pretty intense. So emotions run strong, opinions vary, and the stakes are as high as they can get. I'll leave
This
it at
is
that.
more intense, Mike, than the Chael Sonnen Anderson Silva situation. The reason why is because both guys can speak English, so they both can go back and forth, right? Like in the Chael Sonnen situation with Anderson, it was just one-sided basically, right? Like Anderson was just like sitting there and
Smiling.
being Anderson, yeah, just quiet. And what is it? What was his most famous saying? Is normal or something. What is normal or something like that, right? So for Chael, he sold that fight, right? And Chael was one of the best promoters ever in this sport. Izzy's becoming that as well. His tactics you might not agree with, but he's doing his thing, man. He's trying to make the most money he can because he knows the UFC is not for the fighters. This is what I believe. He knows that. So he has to take advantage of every situation, make as much money as he can, and walk away with the least amount of brain damage. You know what I mean? Because the UFC is not going to take care of you once you retire. That's just the reality of the sport, right? But, you agree or you disagree, this fight has become massive, and it's going to become bigger because as time goes and we get closer to the fight, more things are going to be said. We're going to see Izzy, or we're going to see DDP on like CNN or something. We're going to see it, like, it's going to get to that point, I think. I think the UFC is going to really push this. You know what I mean? If you like it or not, it's going to happen. UFC is about making money. It's about entertainment now, right? And we've seen it. It's clear as day. But the fight, actual fight, J-Spec, what is going to happen in the fight? Early prediction.
Adesanya wins. Adesanya, like Volk, is a man in his time, and people don't really have an answer for it. The only answer is ridiculous KO nuclear power from a person who beat you before. So you had that psychological advantage like Pereira did. I don't think he's intimidated by Duplessis. I think he doesn't have to worry about the even height, length problem like Pereira. This really feeds right back into a great scenario for Adesanya. Plus, Duplessis likes to strike. Perfect. I really don't think it's gonna be good for DDP. Now, with that being said, I'm on DDP's side. I'll be picking DDP. I'm gonna go against everything I said. I'll contradict myself. I want a new champion. I want chaos. I want more mixing of the pot. And so my prediction is Adesanya cleans house and keeps belt, but I'm gonna pick the other way.
J-Spec, he picks sides. He picks sides, right? You pick a side now. Dude, this is what Izzy did. He created this now. It's like where you're picking sides. Like,
for the record, I did like Adesanya way before this.
You want Izzy to lose. Like, there's going to be so many people that want Izzy to lose now. That maybe not even fans of the sport, really. They might just watch the pay-per-views from time to time, but they saw that and they're like, "Who's this guy? Like, I hate him. I want to see him get knocked out." Mike, early predictions: DDP versus Izzy.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned about Anderson Silva and Chael, and I think that Adesanya's reached that level. Going to multiple weight classes and having success to some degree. Now he holds the belt in this spot. I'll be honest. I think that if Dricus, we've heard the post-fight interview, he knows if he gets his hands on him at any point, it's going to be complete domination on the mat. I mean, when was the last time you saw a head and arm throw in men's mixed martial arts at the UFC level? Yeah. He landed it on Whitaker and then held him down. It's not like Whitaker. He can usually scramble back to his feet, but he was not able to do that. And if he is able to get a hold of Adesanya, it would not shock me one bit. But I was at the Brunson Adesanya fight, and the takedown defense, the fluidity on the feet, and just his striking prowess I'll be interested to see what the odds are here. I tweeted out a few tweets today, and people were asking me. They were suggesting minus 325 opening in favor of Adesanya. I could see it probably something like minus 400 or even 450 for Adesanya, but I think we'd be fools to count Dricus du Plessis out of this fight. I think that he is a real threat. He showed us what he's capable of. You listen to many of the breakdowns in the lead up to the Whitaker du Plessis fight, and that was as many people described, a setup fight for Whitaker. You know, he could just stay on the outside, pick him apart for 3 rounds like he's done to so many other opponents. But no, he wasn't capable of doing that. And in this spot, I know Adesanya and Whitaker are 2 different fighters, but the blueprint is there for du Plessis to close distance, get a hold of his opponent, and that's the tricky part, though. How does he successfully close distance without getting countered and dropped? Because some of the optics on du Plessis, it's not pretty, but he gets it done. He finds a way. So I'll be honest. I mean, as far as an odds guy goes, I do think that the probability is definitely in favor of Adesanya winning this fight, but I am not counting out du Plessis. In fact, like Rob said, I'd like to see Dricus pull this off. I mean, it's not only a feel-good story, but the guy means exactly what he says. He's very articulate. He's straight and to the point. And for him to maintain his composure in front of Adesanya last night, while Adesanya was using vulgarity in front of him and just getting in his face, it showed that he's locked in. And that was after the adrenaline's flowing, and he had Whitaker in the corner of the octagon leaving. So I'm not counting du Plessis out of this fight. I want to know, where is this fight going to take place, guys? Do we have a location yet?
Sydney.
Sydney?
Pay-per-view.
Okay. All right. So, oh man, that'll be a great card to get to, by the way.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
should try to pull this off.
It's
You're
gonna
going,
be
John?
Man, I'm thinking about it. Like, you know, it's costly though. Like, Australia's not cheap. I'm gonna throw that out there. Australia is not cheap, and it's far from everywhere. Like, even for me, I'm on this side of the world. It's still super far flight. But before we get to Sicko and his thoughts on what he thinks about this upcoming title fight that's gonna happen, we get to get to Brianna Frost, and she threw us a little cash. Thank you, Brianna. Make sure you guys go follow Brianna on Twitter and check out her OnlyFans. It's phenomenal. I enjoy the content. Don't tell my wife. But Sicko, man, this is I think this is a closely contested fight, man. I'm not even gonna hate on DDP or Izzy about I try to take away all that hype stuff, because that's hype stuff, and just look at the matchup and the skill set. Man, this is a closely contested fight. I don't care, man. I think the odds are going to be much closer than people think, because nowadays the odds makers are a little bit smarter than they were 5-10 years ago, right? If this happened 5 years ago, they would have put Izzy at like plus blah blah, like 1,000 or something crazy. Sicko, what do you think? Early prediction.
Yeah, I think Izzy wins in spectacular fashion. I think he knocks him out. I think he puts him out cold, lights out. Another insane celebration, another highlight reel. And Izzy just continues to cement himself as one of the greatest of all time, one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen, one of the greatest entertainers we've ever seen. I love Israel Adesanya. I love the entertainment that he brings. I love the way he fights. I love it all, man. And I appreciate Dricus for doing this. I love the fact that he was able to get that win, give us something new, have all of us sitting here talking about racial undertones, talking about usages of words and vulgarities, and where is it going to happen, and how are we going to get there, and how can we watch it. It's perfect. Dricus did his part. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. And you can see why Izzy was so happy. I mean, you remember the video we saw of Izzy almost celebrating when Dricus won, dapping up his boy, saying, I manifested this. I manifested. He can't wait. He was begging the MMA gods, please let this dude win, because I need this not only for the pay-per-view, but there's real animosity there. He really dislikes him, and he really wants to hurt him. And I see it happening for Izzy. And I believe, maybe it's just because I'm in Austin, Texas, I believe in Craig Jones. I believe in his ability to have Izzy prepared for anything on the ground. I'm not saying Izzy's going to go out there and he's going to sweep him and get on top and he's going to throw up all these crazy things, but I think Izzy's going to be able to keep him off of him. Izzy will be able to get up if he does get taken down. And I think Izzy finishes him on the feet. I really do.
When you're at the top of the game for so long, motivation becomes an issue, right? Where if you're fighting the same guys over and over again,
Right.
you lose interest. You know what I mean? It's not like if he would have fought Robert Whittaker again, you know, but he probably would have just been like, man, this is like, yeah, I'm going to fight him. Like, it's not going to be the amount of a draw that DDP brings, right? And now he's bringing in, like, with the anger, I don't think that anger is really anything, to be honest with you. I don't think that. I think that anger is just all acting. I think Izzy went in there and put on an act. Like, he's a promoter. He's an entertainer. Like, he knows what he's doing. I don't think he was like overwhelmed by the moment or anything like that. But he needs that to train. You know what I mean? Like, because the Pereira fight, he needed to lose to get back in there and to push himself to go to the dark places and all that stuff that fighters talk about. And I think DDP is going to do the same thing for him. When I look at the fight, though, I think DDP has a good chance of winning the fight. Like, he's just unorthodox enough to go in there and pull off the upset, right? And then the storyline continues. You know what I mean? Like, if he wins, it's actually better for us, the fans, because the storyline continues. DDP's the champion. You know what I mean? Israel had to eat his words. You know what I mean? Like, all of this stuff, like, it's going to be headlines all over the place, right? And is that what's going to happen in the fight? I don't know. I think Izzy is definitely the clear favorite to win. He has great takedown defense along the cage. And I think he's going to use that in the fight coming up. It's just, yeah, like Mike was saying, how is DDP going to enter the range enough to get a hold of him, right? Because Izzy's footwork is like probably one of the best we've ever seen. You know what I mean? Especially from distance. And Izzy could like kill him from distance. He could slap him from distance, right? And then once he's hurt, that's when he'll go in, because he has 25 minutes to do it. That's one thing that's great about Izzy and Volkanovski. Both of these guys, they're not in a rush. They're patient enough to pick their shots, and they know when their opponent is hurt. It's going to be an incredible fight, man. We're going to be talking about it a little bit more, you know, as it gets closer. But yeah, it's a fun one, man. M saying Dricus is lame. I'm looking forward to the fight, but none of the extra shit. Yeah, a lot of people don't like the extra shit, but I don't know. For this one, I kind of enjoy it a little bit, man. It just like goes to the edge. And Chael did that as well. Chael went to the edge, right? He said some things that were kind of outlandish. You know what I mean? He did.
Say something like, cook me a steak.
Yeah, like he talked about his wife. You know what I mean? That's Mike, you're married. I think all of us are married.
Yeah. Yep.
Jason, you're not married?
Don't you put that evil on me.
Sicko's like, no.
Don't you put that evil on me, John.
Sicko's not married. Anyways, most of us are married, right? If someone like went at our wife, that's like off limits. You know what I mean? That's off limits. You know what I mean? Like, they went at your children. That's off limits. You know what I mean? Like, those are off limit things. And you know, that's what it is. Anyways, let's move on. We spent a lot of time on DDP and Izzy.
I just got to throw that there. I have a beautiful, supportive girlfriend. So thank you, Connie.
All right, there you go. There you go. So, Mike, we know what's up. We know what's up, Mike. The next one was before the Brandon Moreno Pantoja fight. This was the fight of the night, in my opinion. Dan Hooker versus Jalen Turner. You know what I mean? Mike, we're going to start with you because you came in late. Jalen Turner came in, missed weight by a couple pounds. In the ceremonial weigh-ins, even after rehydrating, he did kind of still look fatigued or slow or lacking. But once he stepped into the cage, man, he was ready to go. He looked good. That first round was a phenomenal round for Turner. Then Hooker turned it around. Hooker broke his arm in the fight and still won. Insane, right? Performance by Hooker. All the people talking about Hooker is washed. Hooker can't hang with the top. Jalen Turner was the guy that everybody expected to like launch into the top 5 and beat a lot of the guys. He had the skill set. Mike, talk about the performance. Oh
my gosh. I mean, number one, how much does Dan Hooker enjoy fighting? You could see it. I was hoping that this fight would last longer than about 5 minutes, because you could see Dan kind of finding his groove, you know, and that's beautiful to watch. Once he gets going, starts sweating and and putting his hands on folks and getting his combinations going, and even eating a few strikes. He kind of, the switch flips for him, and it's really nice to see that play out, because that's you can tell when somebody's loving the sport that they're in, and that's without a doubt. And also, Turner came out hot. We knew he was going to come out hot, and he was fighting well at range. And one thing that really caught me when I was looking up stats before this fight took place was Jalen Turner's striking defense on the feet is only 43%, which is horrible. That's even worse than Jimmy Crute, which is
Wow.
incredible. Yeah. So he's shored up some of his striking defense. And you saw once he started to get winded, Dan really put it on him. And there were a few times there where the optics for Turner were horrific. He at one point fell down, almost looked like he was trying to pull guard without somebody on him. And Hooker went down with him, which I wonder if he would have let him stand for a little bit longer, how that would have played out. But then you saw Turner conserving some energy towards the end of the fight. And then that's those scorecards. My God, Adelaide Bird. That was some scary stuff, giving the third round to Turner, who did absolutely nothing except for maybe some elbows off his back. But that was it. So extremely happy for Dan. I know he's a fan of the show and works pretty closely with you. So I love watching him fight. I'm glad that he got the victory. Looking forward to, hopefully, do you think is that arm going to heal prior to the Sydney card? Probably not.
Nah,
right?
Sydney card's too quick turnaround. I
soon,
think it's like
yeah.
2 months or something like that. I don't think his arm's gonna be ready by then.
So happy
He
for him.
snapped his arm.
What round did
Right.
it take place? Any idea?
I don't know. I have no idea. I should message him, but I have no idea like what round it took place. But still though, like he's like, if you see the x-ray, it's like completely snapped, like right above the wrist. Yeah, man, incredible performance by Dan Hooker. Jalen Turner, I think because of the weight cut, he probably felt like, dude, I gotta go out there and try to finish this fight early, or I'm just not gonna be able to have the cardio to go all 3 rounds. And he went all 3 rounds, man, because Dan Hooker broke his arm. Because man, Turner did throw a quite a bit of kicks, right? And then Dan did block some of those kicks before he got. What about the head kick?
Oh, yeah.
Sicko, that
Dude,
Dan
I
is
have
like
no
one of the
idea.
toughest dudes. Like his chin is like who has knocked out Dan Hooker? Like completely knocked out. Nobody.
Like
Chandler,
clean
maybe?
one shot.
No, Chandler, he dropped him,
You
and
talk
then
about
Dan was
TKO
going
to clean knockout. Yeah,
like
nobody
clean knockout, like where he's like slumped.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been dropped, but it's not like he's never been like where he's
Out.
completely like dead, right? And yeah, man, his chin is crazy, and he ate that head kick, and like a tic tac. Sicko,
Yeah, I don't know
what
how.
did you think?
I have no idea how he took that head kick, man. Like that. To think about, we have the BMF title coming up right now, right? You want to talk about a BMF? Dan Hooker is a BMF. Like that dude is crazy. The fact that you take that type of head kick, break your arm, and you still win. If I told anybody in here, hey, you guys are going to get kicked in the head as clean as you can, you're also going to snap your right hand in half or your right arm in half. Can you still win the fight? Hell no. Like I'll be like, no, I'm out of there. Get me out. But it was him pushing forward. It was him showing that dog. And it was Turner who was crumbling. It was Turner who, like Mike said, the terrible optics of Turner just saying, I'm ready to go. Get me on out of here from time to time. And he's not the one that took the head kick. He's not the one that got his arm snapped. So, yeah, man, anybody that thought it was time for the hangman to hang it up, nah, definitely not. That man's he deserves all of the admiration he gets.
His resume is up there with like Charles Oliveira. Like look at who he's fought, especially like look at the run that he went on during the pandemic. I don't think anybody like gives him credit for that, where he had to fly across the world, didn't really do many camps, legit camps, right? And just fought the best dudes because the UFC was like, hey, you ready? Let's go. And he's just stepped in. Mike said it best. He loves fighting. Like he loves fighting. Like he could be cut, bruised, damaged. He'll say, it's just a scratch. J-Spec, what do you got?
One, the overused phrase that too many fighters who don't deserve it, anybody, anytime, anywhere, that's Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is that type of fighter. Second, borrowing something from our Spaces co-host Den, new mythical fighter, blonde Hooker. I mean, Dan Hooker was already a problem. Now he's a Super Saiyan of his own self. Like, bro, back up. You're gonna have problems. Like, it's all real. Like, he's making believers out of haters on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? And how can you not like Dan Hooker? He's funny. He tells you like it is. He tells you the truth when you didn't want to hear it. IV motherfuckers out there. And yo, he's entertaining as all hell. On the other side, a lot of respect for Jalen Turner. I love the guy. Very nice dude. Been a guest on our show. You know, I hope great things and good future for him. It was beautiful to see that picture of them. Obviously not in the hospital. I don't want anybody in the hospital, but it's really cool that they're like hanging out and doing their thing after kicking each other's ass, you know. But that weight cut, last but not least, not taking anything away from Dan Hooker at all, but we've seen it in other fighters before. If that weight cut does hurt, it suddenly has a direct impact in cardio. And clearly Turner's in shape, so that's not the problem. But Hooker, man, he found a way. And he's a super smart fighter because, like, through the shit, through the fire, through the head kick, through getting bloodied up first, through things not going his way pretty much for the first half or so, he found the answer, and the answer was fighting on the inside. When he got inside, up close, Turner's face, Turner didn't really have an answer for that. He was soaking him. So good job, Hangman. You're smart, and you're funny, and you're a warrior. What can we not love you? You know, everybody loves you, man.
I think Hooker, he almost finished the fight at the end of the second round with that rear naked choke. That was, if there was, you know, like that old saying, if there was 10 more seconds, right, that fight would have been over. The third round, you know what I mean, the arm clearly broken. The barrages just didn't have that impact, right? We saw that, and we know why it didn't have that impact, because we've seen Hooker knock out many dudes, right, with punches and knees. Just didn't work for him because of the broken arm. That's just my speculation. Let's get to some of these comments. James Krause on the chat: Turner is at a fork in the road. Get serious or stay mediocre. Krause, how's the FBI investigation going on? Let us know in the chat. We need an update on that. We haven't heard from you in a while. I don't even know how to pronounce Diggs. I don't know. Turner corner saying between rounds something like, Jalen, put it out of your head, like something was in his mind. Weird. Yeah, that's weird, right? Maybe that was the weight cut thing or something like that. Maybe the weight cut was having a problem. This guy saying Dan Bronx Hooker is a beast. Definitely. Paul Man, he says Dan is starting to peak in his fight IQ. Everything is just Dan's been saying that in his interviews, right? He's saying that he's just starting to understand the game right now, right? So he's been very open, man. That's the one thing about Dan. Very open, very articulate as well. From a guy that has like been in so many wars, he's clear-minded. What do you do with Dan Hooker? I already said it. I didn't already say it, but I said it in my mind. Dan Hooker versus Beneil Dariush. I think that's the fight to make. Mike, what do you think?
Wow. I sign me up. Sign me up. I think that would be a phenomenal fight. Obviously, Dariush has, by many accounts, better grappling, but we know that that Hooker's been in there against Makhachev and others and can hang with a lot of folks. So, and the other thing is the optics. When Dariush gets clipped, we've seen against many others, he can falter. So I like it. I'd bank on, you know what? In that fight, I think Hooker's extremely live, but I would be picking Dariush. I got to be honest. I think that once that fight hits the mat, that Dariush should be able to do some magic down there. But I like the matchup, John. I appreciate you proposing that. And that's there are so many matchups out there. I wish I was a UFC matchmaker. They have such a phenomenal job to be able to put these matchups together. But then you have to be able to have folks sign the contract. And a lot of fighters, they don't want to fight folks who are behind them in the rankings. We've seen that. I'm not sure if you caught the Ian Gary Buckley conversation that was going around on Twitter. There was a video posted, and Buckley was saying, "Come on, I want to fight you." And Gary's like, "Why? If I'm trying to get here, why would I fight you there?" Did you see that? Yeah. So interesting. Facts. So I'm not sure if Dariush would accept the fight against Hooker, but I'd be down to watch it, no doubt.
Yeah, that's facts. Sicko, I'm gonna propose a matchup for Jalen Turner next, and the matchup is Matt Favola rematch.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, Dan Hooker's in one of those situations where there's kind of an endless amount of possibilities for him, right? First of
No,
all,
I'm talking about Jalen Turner.
Oh, for Jalen Turner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I want to see what goes on with the weight cut, like what was behind it. Was there issues? Is he thinking about moving up? Like, we have to see what was going on there. Was there something like somebody said earlier in the chat about the corner saying, get that stuff out of your mind? Was there something going on? Was there a personal issue going on that affected his weight cut? Like, I got to see where he's at. If it's something that, hey, there's a mental headspace for you and that weight cut's not going to be an issue moving forward, great. Absolutely. I love that fight for sure. 100%. But anybody in that division, right? That division is so stacked. Like, there's no way that you have a lack of opponent for anybody, no matter who it is. And I was going to throw a name in the hat for Hooker, who was very loud immediately after Hooker won, was Money Moicano. Really wants the Dan Hooker fight. And that fight would be excellent to see.
That would be excellent. And, to what Mike was saying, that would be fighting backwards in the rankings, right? And that's something I think Dan Hooker is not looking at. And rightfully so, a lot of these guys. But when you lose, then that's when you're like, okay, you should fight back in the rankings, right? If you win, you should try to fight somebody that's ahead of you in the rankings that has coming off a loss. And that's why I suggested Beneil Dariush. He's ahead of Dan Hooker, but he's coming off a loss. Jalen Turner, same thing. He's coming off a loss. Matt Frovola's coming off a win. Matt Frovola's number 15. Jalen Turner's ahead of him in the rankings. J-Spec, what do you want to see? Because Crazy Pato mentioned a couple opponents for Dan Hooker, Armon, and he's mentioned Gregor Gillespie. Like, he just posted Gregor Gillespie, a name that, hasn't been around in our mouths for I don't even know how many years now, right? When was the last time we saw him fight? I don't even remember. But
the last thing I remember from him is the knockout he suffered.
Yeah, Kevin Lee, right? Yeah, that's and Kevin Lee just got back to the UFC and he's fighting at a different weight class. It's pretty insane. But J-Spec, what do you think? What do you think we should do with Dan Hooker?
Well, I'm probably the worst guest worker at matchmaking, but I'll throw it out there. I was looking at the list, and why not RDA? Is RDA booked? Is he fighting somebody? Like,
yeah, I believe.
Yeah, Luke.
Oh, he is. Oh,
welcome.
I lied. Didn't see. I'm not good at this, but you know what I can tell you? I heard from someone, pretty reliable source. I don't know if it's 100% true, but Mr. Dariush is possibly looking at Fiziev. I don't know if that's going to work out, but that's maybe the things I heard from somebody that knows something about something. So who knows? But yeah, man. I'll just back up what Sicko said. Like, this whole division, like, just who's not signed, and then just like make X marks, and then whatever names line up. Ta-da! Like, every fight is good. Literally every single one of them. Also, I would like to hear, what Mr. Hooker wants. Like, what does Mr. Like, dude, you're back. You're kicking ass. Like, you're a veteran. You've done the UFC. Let's be honest. He's saved the UFC's card so many times. Like, let's give him the user choice. Like, what does he want? Whatever he wants, let's give it to him.
Yeah, he just has to, recover from a broken arm, right? And that could take some time. Before we get into Bo Nickel, make sure you guys go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app to make your picks, join J-Spec's League to win prizes. Mike, Bo Nickel, he goes in there. Everybody's like, he's going to wrestle him. He doesn't wrestle him. He knocks him out cold. Woodburn, he was also an undefeated prospect with more experience, but they look like they were in different leagues. Bo Nickel, do we push him fast? Would you like to see him fight somebody that is a bigger name with a lot more experience? What do you see in Bo Nickel?
I personally would. I'd like to see him. I mean, at this stage in the game, I know that he's extremely talented is an understatement. We've seen it. By the way, you mentioned that huge size discrepancy, and he had to fight an opponent who was throwing caution to the wind, trying to give himself his best shot at victory by landing power strikes and trying to close distance. And you saw Nickel showing some semblance of striking defense there, staying evasive, trying to pull counter, and he was able to pull it off. So it was nice to watch Nickel showing us some new wrinkles in his game. And as a fan of the sport, I'd love to see him get pushed quick. Remember when Lesnar fought Frank Mir right off the bat? Credentialed wrestler. It seems like Nichols had more MMA experience than Lesnar at this stage in his career when he got into the game. So sign me up. Could you imagine it if they ended up booking Chimaev against Nickel right off the bat and just see where the cookies, let the chips fall where they may? That would be a huge pay-per-view. But I understand them trying to. I mean, Nickel was on Contender Series a couple of times, right? Mm-hmm. Like, didn't they? They're dragging this out a little bit longer than it needs to be. The guys has 4 first-round finishes in under a minute. So let's see him get some octagon time and sign me up. I would like to see him fight a high-profile opponent.
Yeah, he's people talk about blue chip prospect. He's blue chip prospect. I think they should take their time. But I agree with you. I would love to see him fight Chimaev, down the line. I don't know if it's going to be the next fight, but I would love to see that fight. I think he's a serious threat. Once he gets into that top 15, man, I think he needs to get up to like 10 fights. I think that's a good enough amount. Like, I think Chris Weidman fought for the title against Anderson Silva, I believe, at 10 fights, undefeated, and that's when he knocked him out. If I'm not lying, but Bo Nickel, we'll see what happens with him. The rest of the card was bonkers, man. Sicko, what stuck out to you most about the prelims? Because there was so much going on, man.
Man, the thing that stuck out to me the most was the hot blade dug through my heart when I had to see Yasmin Jauregui, who I've been telling everybody to watch out for, who I've been telling everybody is going to be a champion, and I've been telling everybody how hard she works and how incredible of a fighter she is and how violent she is, and she's perfect. She's exactly what people need, another Mexican to come in there and put girls out, and then she just gets knocked out immediately. I mean, that hurt, but it was also exciting. Gomes, big salute to her. She did what she had to do, man. She stopped a hype train. A lot of people are actually on the Yasmin Jauregui. She wasn't unpopular. She had some popularity behind her. She had a pop. I was really surprised when when she made her walkout. There was a big pop from the crowd, and obviously, like Rob said, heavily Hispanic crowd in there, but a big pop for her. And I was like, okay, everyone is in agreement with me. She's on everybody's radar. Let's go. It's time to go. And 2 young girls, 23 and 24 years old. We might see this again. We could see this again down the road. But yeah, that one stuck out to me big time. And just to put a little ribbon on Bo Nickel, I'm completely strapped in, man. The seatbelt is tight. I am on the Bo Nickel hype train. I can't wait for it.
There you go. J Speg, what stuck out to you, outside of Gomes flatlining Jauregui?
I have to give all the love in the world to one of the best fighters, to an icon, to a legend, and a man that shares the same name as me, Robbie Lawler. I'm Rob. He's Robbie. Who cares? Same difference. Yo, can you get a better final performance? I mean, it was well known. You get a Hall of Fame entrance. You got all the admiration in the world. You're getting fans of International Fight Week just getting to express their love for you. And then you go out there and have the fastest knockout of your career in 38 seconds. Like, it never goes this way. It never goes. Legends always go out on their back, KO'd or getting choked out or something shitty. Like, so much love and admiration for Robbie Lawler, not just for once upon a time being the youngest signee into the league that's been surpassed since then, but also what he's done for MMA as a whole, like his journey through MMA and the different organizations, even fighting in Hawaii. Like, man, it's a gift what he gave to us, and a perfect, like, all fighters dream of this type of scenario, I'm assuming, when they know it's their final fight. Because I was worried, when fighters talk about retirement, most of the time they already are, and it doesn't go well. And I honestly didn't see this coming in 100 million years. So I'm so stoked about it. And I'm a copy Sicko. Last but not least, slow roast Bo Nickel, let him kill 100 fools. Like let's enjoy his career all the way through. But Robbie Lawler, we love you, man. You're a killer, and thank you for everything.
Mike, on the prelims, there was a lot of solid prospects, right? A lot of undefeated records as well. You had Tatsuro Tiara, you had, Vitor Petrino, Cameron Simon, Jesus Aguilar, Esteban Ribivovic. Who has the highest ceiling, in your opinion?
I think Petrino does, to be honest. The way he's only, 25 years of age?
Yeah.
And the guy has shown he can fight through adversity. Against the Pleasure Man, we saw he was tested there. And against Prachnio, the guy can just walk through people. You could see it on the opponent's face. He had a real issue with the power that was being thrown at him. And also got his first submission, was able to gain mount a few times. And I believe it was a head and arm choke that he was able to lock in there. But impressive. So he would be my my most impressive prospect of the entire card. And then also, if you want to talk about folks who kind of fall from grace, would be Jimmy Crute. He looked horrific out there. The way his I'm just trying to gauge what his game plan was, because he talked about the first fight that he had with Menefield, how he had a real problem with the speed of Menefield, who's in his mid 30s, and he was unable to get the takedown. He was losing the fight at range, and then the way he tapped, it seemed like he was checking out. And I saw the gloves come off in the octagon. Did he retire? Do we have no, he didn't. Okay.
We don't know.
Yeah. So he had such a bright future, but this is a problem. His striking defense is not improving. In fact, it went down even after I mentioned the Jalen Turner striking defense versus Crute. Well, Crute gave up, I believe, 59% of the strikes landed from Menefield on Crute. So still not good. Wasn't able to get the takedown. And man, we've seen it so many times before with Anthony Smith, Jamal Hill, and others. Everybody has his number on the feet, except for maybe Modestus Bukauskas. So I'm not sure where he goes from here. Definitely a camp change I'd recommend, but also he's taken a lot of punishment. So he was the much better ground fighter headed into yesterday's fight, but he seemed like he checked out, completely lost. So that was those two fighters, Petrino and Crute, were folks that really stood out to me on opposite ends of the spectrum.
At 205, right, you don't see many guys that are grappling heavy make it to the top. It's guys that are strikers that can defend against grapplers, like a Menefield. You know what I mean? He can defend against the ground and then beat you up on the feet. And, he's an anomaly, Jimmy Crute, right? I think it's just frustration by him, right? He tried to fight the guy the second time around and got beat up even worse. Paul Craig is another guy in the top 15 that's more of a grappling heavy style that has made it to the top, so to say. But other than that, the rest of the guys, Krylov, he's become more of a striker. He's blending the striking a little bit better, but he is dangerous on the ground as well. But the rest of the top 15, man, they're all striking based guys mostly, right? The guys that can knock you out on the feet. So it's hard for Jimmy Crute, man, even though he's still young. But I don't think it's over for him. I feel that he should, go back to the lab. He's still young, so he could take a year off and go train and kind of get that fire back, so to say, and then add some tools in there and come back, man. I think that's a huge possibility. When I look at the prelims, man, Petrino, man, that dude, there's something about him, right? Like there's something about, like, he's built and he's looked like he's like adding tools every fight. Like he's just adding things every fight. And I had some exchanges with him on Instagram because I wanted to interview him, right? And he's just like, oh, my English is not good enough. But he was really like cordial about it. He seems like a good guy, right? We don't really get to see these guys' personalities unless you do interviews with them if they don't speak English. Yeah, man, I still think Cameron Simon, 22 years old, and he's fought like 3 or 4 times in like 8 months or something like that, and he still wants to hop back in one more time this year. I feel like he's the future of the bantamweight division as well. He's only going to get better with the team he got with DDP down there in South Africa. Tiara, a lot of hype around him, right? And he didn't really perform that well in this fight. Something was up, it seemed like, right? Edgar made a lot of mistakes, right? Jumping the guillotine. Why jump the guillotine so many times? If he would have kept it on the feet, he was doing pretty well. He could have won that fight, man. Mistakes. I think he's going to watch that fight again and say, like, man, what am I doing out there? But yeah, great to see Robbie Lawler retire on top, and they did the highlight package, and people got emotional. It's great, man. Alonzo Menafield, what do you do with him? He's you got to give him a big name next, right? You got to give him a Volkan Ozdemir or somebody like that, right? You got to do something with him because he just can't be beating up guys like that. He's got to work to the top, and he's undefeated since he moved away from Fortis MMA and joined with Pat Barry, right? He's been undefeated since then. Pat Barry knows what he's doing, man. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, man, that's it. That's the whole card. Usually we only do like 90 minutes on it, but a little bit over time. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us live. We will be back next week. We might have to shift the show to Monday because I will be in Bangkok this week covering the One Championship show. And I won't be flying back until probably Monday, which means I have to miss the show. So we'll see. We'll figure it out, but we'll let you guys know that watch the show. Thank you guys always for joining us. Make sure you guys go in the descriptions and download the AllStar app and utilize the picks option. Mike, where can they find you and your stuff?
Mike's MMA Picks on Twitter is predominantly where you'll find me. So I'm always posting. A student of the game and been around for a while. So grateful to be a part of this team and looking forward to everybody's work here. Thanks, John.
All right, Sicko. Of course, we can find you at Sicko Sports. Go check out his YouTube channel. He does more than MMA. He does other sports. Go check out his content. And yeah, and Jay Speck, the host, he has spaces every week for all UFC, Bellator, anything fight related. They're doing spaces. Go join them. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining.